I still remember the first time I heard a story like this in real life. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting, no scandal. It was told in a low voice during a coffee break, the kind of confession that makes you put your cup down and listen carefully. That's why, when I think about what happened to Olivia, I can't help but feel that same tightness in my chest. Because this is exactly how these stories usually begin. Quietly. Almost invisibly. Olivia was 28 when she started working at the company. A mid-sized marketing firm, modern office, glass walls, motivational posters everywhere. She had worked hard to get there. Long nights at college, unpaid internships, saying no to vacations because she needed experience. This job wasn't just a paycheck. It was proof that she was finally moving forward. Her boss, Marcus, was everything people admired in a leader. Early 40s, confident, well-spoken, always impeccably dressed. He was the kind of man who remembered birthdays, who praised employees publicly, who liked to say he believed in mentorship. Everyone respected him. Some even adored him. At first, Olivia felt lucky to work directly under him. He noticed her ideas in meetings. He asked for her opinion. He complimented her work ethic. When he said things like, "You have real potential," she took it as encouragement, nothing more. And honestly, who wouldn't? The first moment that made her uncomfortable was so small she almost forgot it. Almost. They were alone in the office late one evening. A deadline was coming up, and most of the team had already left. Marcus stopped by her desk, leaned slightly too close, and said, "You know, Olivia, you're different from the others here." He smiled while saying it, as if it were a harmless compliment. She laughed politely. People say awkward things sometimes, she told herself. Especially bosses who think they're being motivating. After that, things didn't suddenly become obvious or extreme. That's the part people rarely understand. It's never a switch. It's a slow drift. Marcus started emailing her directly instead of including the team. Then he started texting her about work after hours. At first, it was just reminders. Deadlines. Feedback. But eventually, the messages changed tone. Did you get home safe? You work too hard. You should relax more. Once, he added a smiley face. Olivia stared at her phone for a long time before replying with a simple, "Yes, thanks." She didn't want to seem rude. She didn't want to be misunderstood. And she definitely didn't want to create a problem where there wasn't one. I've seen this pattern so many times, and it always starts with self-doubt. You start questioning your own instincts instead of the other person's behavior. Marcus began finding reasons to call her into his office. Not meetings. Just quick chats. He'd ask about her weekend. Her family. Her dating life. When she answered vaguely, he'd laugh and say, "You're very private, aren't you?" Once, when she mentioned being tired, he said, "If I were younger, I'd ask you out and remind you how to have fun." He said it jokingly. He always said things jokingly. That was his shield. Olivia smiled again. She always smiled. Later that night, lying in bed, she replayed the sentence over and over. Something about it didn't sit right. By the third month, other people started noticing how much time Marcus spent around her. Co-workers teased her lightly. "Looks like you're the favorite," one of them said. Olivia laughed it off, but inside, her stomach twisted. She didn't want attention. She wanted peace. There was one incident she couldn't ignore. They had gone out as a team to celebrate landing a new client. A casual bar. Drinks, laughter, loud music. Marcus sat next to her, closer than necessary. As the night went on, he drank more than usual. At some point, he leaned in and whispered, "You know I could fast-track your promotion, right?" She froze. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Low. Intimate. As if it were a secret meant only for her. She pulled away slightly and said, "I'm happy to work hard like everyone else." Marcus smiled again. "I like that answer," he said, placing his hand briefly on her lower back as he stood up. That touch lasted less than a second. But it changed everything. After that night, Olivia couldn't sleep properly. Every interaction replayed in her mind. She started dressing more conservatively. She avoided being alone with him. She replied to his messages with shorter and shorter responses. Still, he didn't stop. He started scheduling one-on-one meetings in the late afternoon, when the office was nearly empty. He commented on her appearance more openly. "That color suits you. You should wear your hair down more often." One afternoon, during a meeting, he closed the door behind her. He sat across from her desk, leaned back, and said, "You know, people notice when someone gets special attention." Her heart started racing. "I don't know what you mean," she said. "I just want to make sure we understand each other," Marcus replied calmly. "I've done a lot for you. And I could do even more." There it was. Not explicit. Not direct. But unmistakable. "I've heard people say, why didn't she just quit?" As if it's that simple. As if walking away from a career you fought for doesn't feel like losing a part of yourself. Olivia nodded, stood up, and said she had another meeting. She went straight to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall. Her hands were shaking. She felt ashamed, angry, scared. Mostly scared. From that day on, the office felt hostile. Marcus became colder in front of others. He criticized her work publicly. Deadlines became tighter. Feedback harsher. It was subtle enough that no one else questioned it. But she felt it. Late one night, she received a message from him. "You seem distant lately. Did I do something wrong?" She stared at the screen. This time, she didn't reply immediately. Instead, she started documenting everything. Screenshots. Dates. Times. Comments. She wasn't sure what she would do with it yet, but something inside her shifted. Silence no longer felt like protection. There was another thing Marcus didn't know. Olivia had a friend in HR. Not a close friend, but someone she trusted enough. Someone who once told her, "If anything ever feels off, say something. Even if you're not sure." For weeks, Olivia hesitated. Every day she changed her mind. One day she felt strong. The next day, terrified. She imagined losing her job. Being labeled difficult. Not being believed. Then came the breaking point. Marcus asked her to stay late again. Said they needed to clear the air. When she arrived at his office, the lights were dimmer than usual. He stood by the window, not his desk. "You know," he said, "this could all be much easier." She felt her throat tighten. "I'm not interested in anything personal," she replied quietly. Marcus sighed, as if she had disappointed him. "That would be a shame," he said. "Opportunities don't come twice." Something inside Olivia snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just firmly. She walked out. The next morning, she requested a meeting with HR. "I want to pause here, because this is usually where people stop listening. They think the rest is predictable. But it's not. Real life rarely gives us clean victories or instant justice. What comes next is messy, painful, and deeply human." And that's exactly where Olivia's story truly begins. When Olivia walked into the HR office that morning, she almost turned around twice. Her hand hovered over the door handle longer than she'd like to admit. I've been there before, not in the exact same situation, but in that moment where you know that once you speak, there's no undo button. Silence keeps things familiar. Truth changes everything. She sat across from Rebecca, the HR manager, a woman in her mid-30s with calm eyes and a notebook she barely touched. At first, Olivia spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully, afraid of sounding dramatic. She started from the beginning. The comments. The messages. The meetings. As she spoke, her voice trembled, then steadied. When she finished, there was a long pause. Rebecca didn't look shocked. That, somehow, hurt and relieved Olivia at the same time. "Do you have any documentation?" Rebecca asked gently. Olivia nodded and handed over her phone. Screenshots. Emails. Dates written in a notes app at 3 in the morning. Rebecca looked through everything in silence, her expression growing more serious with each swipe. "You did the right thing by coming here," she finally said. Those words didn't bring relief the way Olivia expected. Instead, they brought fear. Because doing the right thing doesn't always protect you from consequences. An internal investigation was opened quietly. Marcus was informed there had been a complaint, but not by whom. Of course, he knew. People like him always know. The shift in his behavior was immediate. He stopped speaking to Olivia altogether unless absolutely necessary. When he did, his tone was cold, professional to the point of cruelty. He excluded her from meetings she used to attend. Projects she had led were reassigned without explanation. It was punishment disguised as process. Co-workers noticed. Whispers started. Some avoided her. Others looked at her with pity. A few treated her like she was contagious. No one asked her directly what was wrong. No one wanted to get involved. At home, Olivia barely slept. She replayed conversations in her head, wondering if she had exaggerated everything. Maybe he was just awkward. Maybe she misunderstood. That doubt was the worst part. Worse than his comments. Worse than the stares. The investigation dragged on for weeks. Rebecca checked in occasionally, always careful with her words. "These things take time," she said. "We need to be thorough." Meanwhile, Marcus played the role of the perfect boss. He smiled more. Laughed louder. Praised others openly. It was as if he were performing for an invisible audience, building his defense without ever saying a word. One afternoon, Olivia overheard two co-workers talking near the printer. "She's probably just trying to get attention," one of them said quietly. "I heard she wants his job," the other replied. Olivia walked away without saying anything, but that night she cried harder than she had in years. Not because of Marcus, but because of how alone she felt. This is the part no one prepares you for. The isolation. The way people rewrite your story when you're not in the room. Then came the meeting. Olivia was called into a conference room with Rebecca and a senior executive she barely knew. Marcus was already there, sitting straight-backed, calm, confident. He didn't look at her. Rebecca explained that they had reviewed the evidence, interviewed staff, and examined communication records. Olivia's heart pounded so loudly she barely heard the words. "We have found that Mr. Collins engaged in repeated inappropriate conduct that violated company policy," Rebecca said. Marcus finally looked at Olivia then. Not angry. Not apologetic. Just surprised. As if he couldn't believe she had actually gone through with it. He was placed on immediate leave pending further action. The room felt unreal. Olivia expected to feel victorious. Instead, she felt numb. Marcus resigned 2 days later. The official email framed it as a mutual decision and thanked him for his years of service. No mention of misconduct. No acknowledgement of what he had done. Just a quiet exit. Some co-workers congratulated Olivia in hushed tones. Others avoided her even more. One person told her, "You're brave," then quickly changed the subject. The company offered her a transfer to another department, for a fresh start. She accepted. It felt like starting over in a place that still smelled like old wounds. Over time, things slowly improved. Her new manager treated her with respect. The anxiety didn't disappear overnight, but it softened. She stopped checking her phone every time it buzzed. She started sleeping again. But the experience changed her. She became more cautious. More aware of power dynamics. She noticed things she had ignored before. How often women laughed off discomfort. How often silence was mistaken for consent. Months later, Olivia received a message on LinkedIn. It was from a woman who used to work at the company. "I heard what happened," the message read. "I wish I'd had your courage. He did the same thing to me years ago. I just stayed quiet." Olivia stared at the screen for a long time. That message mattered more than any corporate apology. Because it confirmed what she had always suspected. She wasn't imagining things. She wasn't alone. I've shared this story because it's not rare. It just feels rare because so many versions of it never get told. They stay locked inside people who convince themselves it's easier to forget. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt that tight feeling in your chest when someone crosses a line and pretends they didn't, trust that instinct. It exists for a reason. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If stories like Olivia's matter to you, if you believe they deserve to be heard, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. By doing that, you're helping more real stories reach people who need them. And to everyone who listens, who reflects, who shares, thank you for being here.